Hey everybody, Brian Leslie Fatherees here with the Unbreakable podcast. Welcome back to last week of February. Anyway, welcome back. We're glad you're here. We've been talking all month about relationships. We started out with courtship and dating.
Yep.
And then we talked about the biblical definition of marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Then last week we talked about what it looks like
To
after you're married, how to live together, be together.
Yep.
Now, today we're going to talk about living out your priorities. You're going to talk about counting the cost.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to touch on several topics because as we go into March, we're going to take 4 different topics. We could take so many of them, but we're going to take 4 different topics,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to go a little bit deeper for 4 weeks
Mm-hmm.
on those topics.
Yeah.
Even, a 30-minute session on a podcast is not deep enough, really,
No.
to give you everything that you need.
But we're doing our best.
We are, and we'll continue to do our best.
Yeah.
All right.
So maybe count the cost even before you get married.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you thinking about, because the Bible says that you build in vain if you don't have, if you haven't counted the cost and you haven't figured out what it's going to take and all that. It's not a good building
Right.
if you haven't counted out what you are going to have to put into it.
Right.
And so you have to know that when you are entering into marriage, there are some things that are going to change from your life of singleness into your life of being married. And you need to count the cost of those things.
Yeah.
Are you willing to let some things go? Are you willing to have to do some other things that you didn't do before? So that's kind of where we're headed, I think, in our conversation today.
There are decisions you need to make probably even before you actually get married,
Mm-hmm.
and then shortly after you're married,
Mm-hmm.
and deciding this is how we're going to do this. This is how we're going
Right.
to do that. This is how we're going to do. We'll give you some examples. One of the things we decided was how many children do we want,
Mm-hmm.
and we prayed over how many children that we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And so in our honeymoon, the Lord gave us a number and gave us some names, which is kind of cool. That did shift years later a little bit, but we knew and we got. We prayed about how we wanted our children educated
Right.
once we had children. And we didn't have children yet. We just got married. But you're like, you people are too seriously. You get one shot at this thing, folks. And you might as well take it seriously.
Right.
And so we prayed about that. And we looked at public school system. We look at private school system. We look at Christian public or private school systems. And then we look at homeschooling. And we decided we're going to homeschool no matter what the cost was. Felt like God was mandating us to do that with our children once we had children. And we did. We followed up with that. We made a decision once. We kept it. We made a decision about ministry. What we're going to do with ministry.
Yeah.
Whether we're going to continue with that or try to do other things to raise enough money to raise our family. Because the ministries that we were involved in and what we were doing didn't pay well.
Right.
And so there were different priorities that we set. There was the priorities of a date night.
Mm-hmm.
That was a priority that we set. And
There was a priority for me to be at home with the children. It's not popular because most American families are two people working. But we were willing to do without some things so that I could be at home with our children, which once you have 3 children or more, there is... it costs too much for you to not be at home anyway, so we get them all watched and everything. But no, we made decisions about me being the stay-at-home person to educate, to be with, to raise our children, and Brian was there as much as he could be. But that was a a definite decision. Excuse me.
She
breathed in the air funny. I don't know.
While she's doing that, there were a decision we made about birth control, how long we wanted to wait for a child or not wait for a child. Obviously, we didn't wait very long.
Excuse me.
Because married in January, pregnant in March.
Yeah.
So there were decisions about that. There were decisions on who we would allow to influence our children.
Yeah.
But either side of our family, outside of our family, who we would do that. There were decisions we made on the type of entertainment that we would allow in our home.
Yeah.
One of the things that we disallowed right away was anything rated R. And sometimes rated R things are not necessarily bad, but they're rated R. And it's a decision we made not to let them in. They might be rated, like, for example, The Passion of the Christ is rated R because of the violence in the movie about the crucifixion of Jesus. So we didn't let that movie in our home. I did take my oldest, because she was old enough, to go see the movie. Leslie's like, I don't even want to go see that. I don't want to see Jesus get killed. Even though
I know what happened, but I didn't want to go watch
she
it.
didn't watch it. So I took her to that. And so we made a slight exception in that. So we're not inflexible, but we are careful. And we made decisions, we stuck by them. And even then we're like, do we want to do this or not? What else?
We actually had a decision that we made before we were ever married, that we were never going to bring up the word divorce.
Yeah.
We don't talk divorce. Nothing in our life, no matter how bad or how stressful or whatever, challenging that it has been in our life, has ever made us speak the word divorce. We don't do that.
Yeah.
It's never an option. Not ever. It's not ever an option. And so we'll just have to find a different answer, but it's not an option.
Yeah, right.
So that was a really strong one that we decided early on.
We did go through one really bad, challenging thing. We've been through a lot of challenging things, but one really, really bad. And I looked at her and said, this is the thing that causes couples to get divorced. She's like, shut up. We don't use that word. I'm like, aye, yes, ma'am. Because
it just isn't an option.
It's just not an option for us.
We are going to get through things together. No matter what it is, we're going together. We're going to get through it together.
Right.
So, I think... Do you have something else?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I think one of the obvious ones is that in this world where people do crazy things, a decision you should make about being married and counting the cost is that you're not going to have any other sexual partner besides your spouse. There's not going to be
an open marriage.
There's not going to be an extramarital affair. Those are not options for a marriage.
Right.
You have to have that decision, that firm counting that cost that this is it. I have this spouse for all of my life.
Right.
I'm going to love and cherish this person to the best of my ability for all of my days.
Yeah, not a hard decision for her because, I mean, look, you can't find anything better than this.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, you're going to hit the play on that?
Yep.
All right, cool. All right, I forgot to reset the background. But anyway,
we're good.
We're all good. Now we're good for the rest of the podcast.
Anyway.
So I was playing around,
No other partners.
No other partners at all, any way, shape, or form. What else?
I think when you are counting the cost, you have to decide that you're going to uplift and encourage that other person at all times. It's so easy to fall into the habits of talking somebody down or criticizing them all the time, or even the things like we really made a decision about, we're not going to bring up our parents. You're acting just like
your mom, like your dad.
Yeah, we try not to do that. Every once in a while it does come up, but more in the sense of, oh, that really reminded me of your, somebody.
She'll do something. I'm like, honey, so I said, that was your mother.
That was
comment.
yeah.
And she's like, oh, I said, yeah, that was your mother comment. I'm not saying. And she'll do the same thing.
So we're not trying to, say it in a bad way.
No, not at all.
But we're not trying to also accuse the other one. We don't go around accusing the other one of doing that, because it's not uplifting. We love our parents. We're not upset with our parents, but we're trying to be our own people, not be them. Yeah. And we don't want to pick up bad habits that they may have had or have. And so that's a thing. We don't want to degrade one another that way. We want to build each other up.
Yeah, we made a decision up in front of how we were going to discipline our children when it came to whether we would spank or not. We decided we would, but we would be really cautious as to how and when we would do that. And so we were really cautious. Matter of fact, we didn't spank very often because we got more creative ways of disciplining our children. There's several stories in regards to that. I won't bother you with them at the moment. You've heard a couple of them already if you go back through some of our podcasts and videos. But we decided how we would do that. We decided that we would have a united front. And so, I've said for decades and decades and decades and decades that nurses at the hospital and the nursery walk around and whisper to the little cute little babies. And they're like, okay, divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. Haven't you felt that at your home? Divide and conquer. And so we decided we're not playing that game.
No.
And so, because you know what I mean, right? Because that child will come to mom. Typically goes to mom first. And because they can, in our house, they think that they can get a yes from mom quicker than they can get a yes from me.
They can't.
And they can't, but they try. And so they go to mom. I want to go to, I want to eat, I want to do whatever. Yeah. You know the game. And so, and mom's like, yeah, that's normally okay, but tonight, that's not going to go. We can't do that. And so what is their next step? They don't throw a fit. They don't yell because we got after them for all that. They would find me a separate room and, hey, Dad.
Let's try Dad. He might let us do it.
Dad, could we go? Could we have? Could we eat? Can we do? And my first response, because this is what we agreed on, and this is what we're talking about, living out your priorities, living out your decisions. And my first comment to them was, what did your mother say? Did you ask your, first comment is, did you ask your mom? Yeah. Okay.
What did she say?
What did she say? She said no. So why did you think I was going to say anything else other than no?
Well, they had to try.
No, it was worth the shot. However, we were flexible even in that. Because let's say that I'm the one that said no to something, or yes to something, and then Leslie's like, yeah, no, or she's like, yeah, we probably could do that, and then what she will do is not argue with me in front of the children or discredit me. She'll come over to my side and get me apart from them, like, you said
I was thinking this, or
you were. So what do you? How about if we consider this or that?
Yeah.
And they're like, okay. And then we would talk it through. And then if we changed it, we changed it, and we let them know. And we let them know why we changed it.
Right.
If we didn't change it, we didn't go back and say anything. It just the answer stood.
Right.
So, but we were living out our decisions. We were living out the priorities that we had set.
Right.
Right? Can you think of other examples of that?
I think one of the things that we promised to be together, to let our families be the other's family. That was part of our vows. Even it's just, and so looking out for one another's family. My husband has looked out for my parents for quite a few years. In their home, even we have been in their home and had to look after parents that he made them his own. I mean, that was something he had to live out. I promised to make his family my own. That's a very hard thing sometimes.
It is.
Because his family has some challenges that it's hard to deal with sometimes. They're awesome.
They're just more challenging.
But yeah, and we love them, but it's challenging to live out that thing that we promised, that we would make our family, your family's my family, my family's your family. And so we have had to live that one out quite often.
Yeah.
And through a lot of situations.
Yeah.
Through a lot of situations.
Yeah, and so you commit to each other, and then you keep that commitment. You keep that priority, whatever that priority may be. And it may disrupt your life. It may disrupt what you're up to and doing. Because we all know life gets really busy. We all have our own things we got going on, socially, educationally, work-wise, all those things. We have all those different things that are going on, but you made a commitment, and so you have to keep that commitment to each other and to each other's family in that particular case.
Right. I think that one of the things that we've lived out is to support one another in our endeavors.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I was full into waist deep into homeschooling and doing all the things I was doing for homeschooling, Brian supported me all the time. He was encouraging me. He would help me make decisions. He would tell me if an idea was good or if it was a bad idea. And he would encourage my endeavor to homeschool to the best of my ability. And so I was teaching and I was training and doing all the things, but he was very supportive of that. I'm a worship leader. So he would encourage me in worship leading. He'd tell me what sound he wanted and how he wanted it to be. But then he'd let me figure it out and find the things that I needed to find to make it the best that I could be. And he encouraged me in that. I try to encourage him in all the things that he does in business, in ministry.
Yeah.
I love when he preaches. I'm trying to encourage him about that and tell him how proud I am of him when he's done that. And it's a mutual encouragement of the things that we are endeavoring to do in life, whether they're kingdom things or family things or just personal interest sometimes, but we are encouraging to one another in those endeavors and wanting God to bring out the best in both. We are very interested in each other and God bringing out the best in our the things that we do. The things that we do.
So living out the priority is, again, you set the priority, whatever that priority might be. We'll watch up to this level of entertainment. We'll read these kind of books.
Right.
We'll pray this often. We'll go to church this often. For us, church was not an option. We went to church.
We were there every time the doors were open.
All the time, whether we were the ones in charge or not.
Yeah.
And we were just there constantly. And my kids had a drug problem when they were children because I drug them to church every week, multiple times a week.
And they drag us to church now, so I mean,
we're
all going.
It's fair. So anyway, it all works together. But those are just decisions that we made. That, period, we're doing that. And that affected other things. For example, because we've made a choice that we're going to go to church.
Right.
My kids didn't always get to play sports. Some of the sports they wanted to play, because of that sport conflicted with church. Church came before the sport.
Yes.
It's just the way that worked.
Yeah. And that was with any activity.
Yeah.
Anything they might be doing, if church was always the first priority.
Yeah.
In activities and things, and then after that, if it didn't conflict, then yes, we would.
Right.
We would work on the next thing they wanted to do.
Both sides of our family, we have a lot of family. So there were birthdays all the time. And so birthday parties were constant. And most of our family threw their birthday parties on Sunday. And so we're like, we're coming, but we're not coming until after church.
Right.
So we may be a little late, but we'll be there.
Right.
And so you're carrying. So I was carrying out two decisions at the same time to support each other's families,
right,
and to be at church.
Right.
So sometimes
they intertwine.
The two things are conflicted, but you made a commitment to both.
Right.
So you got to work out a way to stay committed.
Right.
To both.
Yes.
Right. And so you do those kinds of things. Trying to think what else. Trying to stay true to the topic. We got off topic a little bit with some of it.
Well, all of that we have talked about though today. We're living those things out in marriage together.
Yeah.
We're living out the priorities that we've set. We've set a priority that we are married and there is no other option. And so everything that we do, we do it married. Yeah. We do it together. A lot of times we talk about how people know us as Brian and Leslie.
Or Leslie and Brian.
Yeah.
Depending on who knew
but
first.
They don't know us separately.
No.
I mean, usually, almost always, the names always come together. Yeah. Because we are always together. We do things together. Yeah. And so they know us by our names plurally together. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's not as Brian and Leslie, it's Brian and Leslie. Yeah. It's like one name. Because we're one. Yeah. And vice versa. It's Leslie and Brian. Or they know us because we put such a high priority on family. Right. So it's the Fatherees. Yes. I was just talking with someone recently, and and we've been worshiping at a different church recently, and one of the leaders was like, "You have changed the atmosphere, and you changed some dynamics of our church." Like, how our one family changed the dynamics, but it's because we came as a family,
yep.
and we did things as a family, and that's something that church wants and has done, and is actually pretty good at.
But they're in a season where they've got some different families who haven't done it that way. Yeah.
So we're helping them bring that back into their DNA of their church. Not even really trying. We're just being us.
We were just being us. Yeah.
And so
living out our priorities.
Living out the priorities of how we worship and who we are and how we serve.
Yeah.
You make decisions on how you serve. You know, people. I'll give you an example. One of the last churches that we were on staff at, there was a couple that I knew from my hometown, and they started coming to church. They were there for months before I realized they were there, because I was always working. I was on staff, so I'm always doing something with someone somewhere in the building. And then one day at the end of the service, I see them, so I talked to them. He went to high school with one of my brothers, but I knew his family, and well, they would come in late, hang out, listen to the end of the worship, listen to most of the sermon, and then they would bail before they had to commit to talking to people and creating a fellowship. And
they were avoiding connection.
Avoiding connection and community. And so they had not made a decision to serve. They had not made a decision to connect. We were just the opposite. We were there really early and tend to be the person locking up the doors. Just the way that works. It's just a different set of priorities.
Right.
It's just a different set of commitments or no commitment. And you have to make that. We can't make that for you. You have to make this on your own. We're doing it as a confines of marriage right now in relationships. So you have to decide how committed you're going to be to relationship with your children, with your spouse, with your in-laws, with your outlaws.
I think we also made some priorities and some choices in the way that we did our kingdom finances.
Yeah.
We chose to be kingdom-minded about our finances.
Yeah.
We tithe, and that's another thing that is not optional.
No.
we always tithe. We always tithe. It has saved us many times because we tithed. Even though it looked like it was draining finances, it was saving us from going under. Yeah. And so we always tithed. We made decisions along the way that we were going to sow seeds, financial seeds, into good ministries, into missions, into things that the Lord put in our pathway that, we were going to give. And that also produced things coming back into our life that we really needed. So financially, I think you also need to count the cost. Yeah. Being married is actually proven. Stats say that a married man is more established and financially better off than an unmarried man. Yeah. It's good for men to be married. It increases them. Yeah. And so that he's found a good wife and found a good thing, right? Yeah. That's what Proverbs says. Yeah. But financial decisions are also a thing that need to count the costs before you get married. Yeah. Talk about it. Absolutely. Talk about what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, how you're going to live. Are you going to be generous? Are you going to be stingy? Are you going to save? Are you not going to save? Yeah. There are all kinds of financial advice things out there, but you have to make the decision what the Lord has for your marriage, for your partnership together. And sometimes leaving that out is a major challenge. Yeah. Because we've been broke so many times where the money that was coming in we desperately needed that money coming in. But we still tithed. We still gave. Yeah. We even when people blessed us, we gave up of what they gave us. Right. I remember we were pastoring a church at one time, and in the middle of nowhere, and we didn't make much money. And it was towards the end of the week, and I didn't get paid. I did a part-time job outside the church, but I wasn't getting paid until the next Monday or Tuesday, whatever it was. It was a weird payday, and
I'm like, Lord, I need $20 for gas, and we need groceries because we're down to our last food in the pantry and the fridge. We need groceries. I can't buy it until like 4 days from now.
Right.
Please help us out.
Mm-hmm.
Next day, knock on the door. Lady that we knew, not from our church, and she gave us literally a boatload of
food.
Groceries and food and everything, meat, milk, everything. And it was so much, I can't remember, we had 5 or 6 extra bags of groceries, and we gave that away to someone else that we knew was in need. Mm-hmm. So it's learning to be humble enough to receive when you don't have, when you have lack, but willing to give out of the lack and being generous enough to give. Mm-hmm. God gave us extra so that we could give and keep the process going. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's challenging when you're down to your last few dollars and it's time to give. Mm-hmm. And your tithe is the end of the paycheck. By the way, it should be the first of your paycheck. But you look at your paycheck and you're like, if I give this, I'm not going to be able to do ABC. Give anyway, because God's faithful.
Because you're living out the priority of doing His way first. Yeah. So you tithe first. You give because God's generous, so you're generous. So you're living out that priority. You have to decide what your priority is in that, but financial things are what make or break marriages sometimes. If you aren't together in those decisions, if you haven't counted the cost ahead of time and then living out what you've decided, standing in faith in it, that can cause a lot of issues in marriages. Yeah,
2 of the top reasons people get divorced. Number 1 is sexual intimacy issues, and number 2 is financial issues, and neither one is from when it's abundant.
Right.
Put it that way.
It's lack.
It's lack or disagreement in how that's supposed to be handled.
Right.
So you want to make sure that those priorities are set in your life.
Yes.
And do that. We could get into the one side, but we don't have time. Just live out what you've committed to, and know that the moment you make a decision, the moment you say, I'm going to do ABC, I'm going to raise my kid this way, I'm going to treat my spouse this way, I'm going to give this way, I'm going to be generous, not stingy, I'm going to pray this much time every week, every day, every whatever. The moment you make that decision, expect a challenge.
Yeah.
Expect God's not bringing a challenge, but life's going to hand you something. The enemy's going to hand you something and say, let's see if they really are serious about what they said they made a decision in. And know that if you'll stick to your guns, if you'll live out the decisions that you've made, if you'll live out the priorities that you've set, that God is very, very faithful to help you overcome and get to a place of blessing in all those areas of your life.
Yes.
Anything else?
No.
She says no. That means we're stopping.
We've covered it. We're good.
We covered it for now. Now we're going to take 4 areas that, because this is end of February, we're going to take more about living out your priorities. So we kind of touched on a couple of these. That's why we're kind of on a little bit while we're talking, because we didn't want to give away
too much
or get into too much.
We can talk.
So we're going to be talking about why marriage is better than living together, and we're going to talk about being one in every aspect, which we talked about a little bit last week and hinted at this week. We're going to talk to you about your marriage is priority number 1, which we talked about today, and then we're going to talk to you about something really unique at the end of March, and I'm not going to say what that is. I'm going to bait you, make you come listen to it. So that's where we're at with that. But with that said, if you didn't listen last week and you're listening this week, we're going to be this coming month, as we're entering into March, we're going to be in the Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania area. Actually not in the area, but actually in Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania. It's near Lancaster, Pennsylvania. At Lifegate Church on the 22nd and the 23rd, Saturday night, Sunday morning, Sunday night. Come. You want to hear a little more in depth, or a lot more in depth, about parenting God's way, come for that conference. That's what they've asked us to talk on. So we're going to be talking specifically in those 3 sessions about parenting and God's biblical definition of how to do that. We're actually, we haven't told them all this yet, but we're actually going to take a Q&A session probably on the last session, on the Sunday night session, so people can ask questions about specifics in their life.
We want to give you some practical application to the way God does things, and hopefully it'll help you be better parents.
Yeah. So if you know anyone in that region, send them. If you listen to us and you're from that area, come see us. Tell us that you listen to our podcast, that you watch our videos. Come let us know. We'd love to shake your hand, hug your neck, get to know you a little bit more personally. Right?
Yep.
All right. With that said, we love you. We are praying for you. We didn't really pray for you this time, but we're praying for you every Wednesday night. We believe in your families. We believe that God has great plans for you.
Yep.
So, I guess that's goodbye for now.
Yep.
We'll talk to you soon. Bye.